Life speaks. It speaks through struggles and success, through music and messages, the preconceived and the unexpected. Whether you are in the depths of the valley or in the midst of your mountaintop experience, everyone needs to be encouraged from time to time. Here we will share stories of strength, testimonies of triumph, verses of victory, observations, and information meant to touch the heart and uplift the soul, to keep you on your path of purpose and navigate this thing called life with power and authority. This is Andrea Hines, and I'm your host for When Life Speaks, here on ALH Broadcasting, an affiliate of the Streaming Inspirational Broadcast Network. I am glad you accepted the invitation to join us tonight. There's something in this broadcast just for you, and if it is going to be a blessing to your life, it will be to someone else as well. So share, tag, start a watch party, and invite someone you know to join us. Then turn down the volume of life and get ready to receive, so that when life speaks, you'll speak life. Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, Lynn.
Good evening.
How are you this evening?
Okie dokie, and yourself?
I'm doing good. Please excuse me. I'm sucking on a throat lozenge, which probably isn't the best thing to do, but so be it this evening. Happy New Year to you, my dear.
Happy New Year to you too.
And Happy New Year to you, Miss Ida Batts. Ida just popped on this evening. Glad to have you with us, Ida. Good to have you. Good to have you. And we are starting a brand new year. This is the first program of 2022. And I am excited about it. I'm glad to be back. I feel like I've been gone for a long time, but it's just last week, right? But Angie, good evening to you. Glad to have you tonight. Good to see you. And also Victoria Henderson Poole telling us good evening. So glad to have you on the line, Victoria. And yes, we're saying Happy New Year to everybody. Yes. And I wanted to start out with our little housekeeping right now, and I may go over it again at the very end of the show. But you know, When Life Speaks, we have different categories of our programs. We have stories of strength, testimonies of triumph. We have segments which we call Keep Faith Flowing, and that's kind of what the village falls into, because we're looking at things that will keep us strengthened and things that will keep us encouraged, and just really to get a perspective from different people on different things. We have the Power of One. Mm-hmm. And those are individuals who have kind of stepped out and either started nonprofits, or periodically we have Pastor Steve Sims on. He has a mentorship program, and he gives us some leadership tips on things like that. And of course, our stories of strength and testimonies of triumph. And I wanted to put that out there in the very beginning, because none of this works without you all.
Right.
And if any of you have a testimony that you want to tell, if there's someone that you know that you think has an incredible story that all of us can benefit from, then, you know, I want to hear from you. I want you to send us some information. And if you are part of the village, a lot of our topics come from those who are part of the village and say, you know what, I'd like to spend some time discussing this, or this is kind of important to me, or this happened to me, and I'd like to get somebody else's perspective on it. I'd like to hear a little bit about it. Hey there, Zerlina. Happy New Year to you. And I know Zerlina has submitted topics that we got into. Actually, parenting was one that came from Zerlina, and we did a couple of sessions on that, trying to get people to weigh in and get their perspective on it. And you know what to do. You know what to do. Send me an email. Send an email. Where should they send the email, Lynn? Tell us where. Tell you're gonna leave me just out here hanging by myself. See that's what happens in the new year. Speak life with Andrea at gmail.com.
I
Thank
was waiting for it to pop up so I could read it.
you, Ellen. She left me out here alone.
I
Alone.
was waiting for the cue. I was hoping it would pop up, and it didn't.
Thank you, Victoria. Victoria says, send that email. That's right. Send that email. Hey there, Bernice. Good to have you on the line tonight. Good to have you. So we're going to start today with something. It's a place everybody is at this time of year. Is there something you wanted to say before I got started, Lynn?
No, for some reason, all of a sudden, I can hear you. I was
Oh,
just like, so I just said, I can hear.
we've been having some audio challenges, guys. So, but you know, we just keep going here at When Life Speaks and all the ALE's broadcasting program. The fact that we can't hear doesn't bother us at all. We keep right on talking and right on going till the sound catches up with us. But
I was like, wow, I can't hear. That's what I'm going to do differently in 2022.
And that's what we want to talk about. What we're going to do differently in 2022 so that our 2022 does not end up looking just like our 2021. Now, that's not necessarily a bad thing, but we know insanity is doing the same thing, the same way, and expecting a different result.
Right.
So a lot of times, Victoria said we're gonna we gonna learn sign language for 2022. Don't start. But we always look. We have different mantras and different things. We say this is going to be the year of the open door, or this is the year of open heaven, or the different things that we have that we want to do for our business and things we want to do for our family. But we don't always plot how we're going to make that happen.
Right.
We talk about it, we put it on our vision boards, we write the vision, we make it plain. Like I might say that this year I want to expand my business, but then I don't put things in place
Right.
in order to expand my business. I don't really look at it from the perspective, okay, if I'm going to do something different, if I'm going to have something different, if I'm expecting some different outcomes, then there's some things that I might have to do
Right.
in order to make that happen. So we sent our little note out to the village to ask them, what are you going to do? What is going to change for you? What will you do differently so that your 2022 doesn't look like your 2021? Lynn, do you ever go back at the beginning of the year and look at the previous year to see whether you actually achieve some of the goals that you set? Do you do that at all?
I do, because there are some things that I do that because the things that I did not complete in the previous year, sometimes move over to the new year. And then there's some things that I look at that I may not have completed, or I may have started and have decided that I don't want to continue that, or that what worked last year, what was good for last year, may not be where I am this year. So yeah, I do.
Okay. I found myself doing that as well. And I went back to some very, very old papers with something that I wrote, and I really hadn't thought about it in terms of doing anything different, but
Mhm.
I really looked at what has happened.
Mhm.
And I had a conversation with someone because one of the things that we didn't bring up a lot with the village is the whole relationship with God and prayer and
Right.
all of that. And
Mhm.
every year, I think most of us are at a place of wanting to spend more time with Him,
Mhm.
wanting to hear His voice and get direction and all of that. But one of the things that I had written had to do with being His pen,
Mhm.
and how I had said that, I wanted to have a global impact. I wanted to do things nationally. I wanted His words to uplift and encourage and all of that.
Mhm.
That was way back in 2007.
Wow. And you're still his pen.
And 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 I never, in 2007, I didn't have any desire
Mhm.
or know anything about broadcasting or
Right.
being in the radio, doing TV, or having shows that would, help other people
Mhm.
to expand and do different things. So sometimes when we put things out there, and actually Francina and I were discussing it today, sometimes when we put things out there or we hear God speak to us about something, we automatically go into a mode of um, trying to figure out how that's going to work. You
Right.
know, what we need to do. I need to do this. I need to do that. And when we ought to just relax and
Mhm.
know that God heard us and that
Right.
He's answering.
Mhm.
A very simple thing the other day, I was sitting and I said, "Oh my gosh, been going back and forth to the store and everything, but what I didn't have was sanitizer. I
Mhm.
didn't have any more Lysol in the house or anything like that." And that's all I said.
Mhm.
And a friend came by to drop off some soup.
Mhm.
And when she dropped off the soup, she said, "And while I was shopping, I happened to find this hand sanitizer, this disinfectant."
Mhm.
She said, "So I bought you a bottle."
Mhm.
And I just had to stand there and smile. I guess she thought I was nuts. She didn't know what I was smiling for, but I just thought about the fact that I didn't have to go into a closet and lay out and say, "Father God, I need to have disinfectant in my home. Please send somebody." And sometimes we do. We
Mhm.
just get deep and, go through all of those changes. But it was just like He was saying, "I heard you.
Mhm.
I heard you and I got you. And I'm just going to send somebody by and give you what you need." And that's the kind of God that we
That's
serve.
it. Mhm.
And sometimes as we are looking at what we want to do differently and how we want it to happen and
Mhm.
what we think we need, just like to have a global impact, I had no idea what that looked like and no idea that it would look like this.
Right.
So sometimes when we look at these things, if we just put it out there, God will guide us and He will direct us into
Mhm.
the rest of whatever it is that we
Right.
have to do in order to make those things come to pass.
Mhm.
So I just want to share some of the things with you all tonight. And Lynn, you know how we do. I'll read some and you just come on in, pop in whenever you want and make your comments. Francina said, "Slow down and let God work it out."
Right.
Hallelujah. And maybe that's one of the things that we should put at the top of the list for 2022. Slow down, let
Slow
God.
down.
Jesus will work it out if you let Him.
Yes.
You have
If
to
you
stop.
let him.
If
Mhm.
you let Him, He will work it out. Well,
Mhm.
let's see what Charles had to say. Charles said he gave us three things: change, adjust, and prepare.
Mhm.
Change, adjust, and prepare.
Mhm.
One, change the way you respond to things.
Mhm.
Adjust how you handle situations and prepare for the future, not the now.
I like that.
Prepare
Mhm.
for the future, not the now. Now, you have anything you want to weigh in on any of those three things?
Um, I like the three, and I would probably flip it and make three my one. But no, but no. Um, but I think but all three of those are very good points because we do have to change the way we respond to things. Um, because some things, and actually some things don't require a response.
That's right.
Some things just don't require a response. And so, I'm always the person that says, if it affects my peace, we're not doing it. And that's the thing, you have to, and again, it goes to the second one, adjust how you handle the situation.
Mm-hmm.
Because there oftentimes, if there's an issue, sometimes we feel like we have to say something, we have to address it. We
Mm-hmm.
No, you don't. No, you don't. And then we go back to what Francina says: if we slow down and let God work it out, there's no response needed from you.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's no response needed from you. So yeah, I liked his 3 points.
Mm-hmm. And I think actually, when we look at the 3 points, uh, they will change and they will
Mm-hmm.
cause us to adjust.
Yes.
If we change the way that we respond to things,
Mm-hmm.
it's going to create an opening or create
Mm-hmm.
an opportunity
Mm-hmm.
for us to adjust how we are handling
Right.
that particular situation.
Right.
So I think they really do go hand in hand with that.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I like those as well. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Zerlina, I'm going to tap into yours here. Zerlina said a few changes I've decided to make in 2022. Ooh,
Mm-hmm.
these are good. Okay. Says I have decided to take a closer look at my circle of friends, associates, and see if it's still feasible for them to remain. That's a tough one, Zerlina.
Mm-hmm.
Necessary one. If
Yep.
not, I will work on removing them. I have grown out of some of those relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Key. Focus more on some of the interests I have for myself and following through with those one interest at a time. I
Mm-hmm.
think that's really good. Be more intentional about what I pour into my children, more Bible time with them.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. You have any comments on Zerlina's, Lynn?
I love the first one, of course. I have decided to take a closer look into my circle of friends. For me, I told somebody one day I don't even have a circle. It's a dot. It's
Just a little round dot.
just no, not even. It's just a little pinpoint there, just a dot. And I say that because we were talking about it, and I'm okay with my dot. I think, and this is how I described it. I don't look at it as a circle because a circle is a noose,
Can be. Very
can
true.
be a noose. So you got to be careful of that. That circle is not too big. So that's why I'm glad with the dot,
Mm-hmm.
because the dot is the nucleus. So that's who I have close.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I look at that. But yeah, I do think that sometimes you do have to look at the relationships that you have around you. And yeah, sometimes you've outgrown them because you've grown and the directions are not always the same. Because if you're both of, if you're looking at two people and both of you are growing, one might be growing in one direction and the other one is going in the other direction, and the season's over. Not a bad thing. Not a bad thing,
That
but
gets
growth.
into the
But
reason, the season, and a lifetime
right.
in terms
So,
of relationships.
it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. It accomplished what it needed to accomplish. It accomplished what it needed to accomplish. Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you this, Lynn and Zerlina. You can weigh in, or anybody on who's listening tonight.
Mm-hmm.
But why do you think it is so difficult to let go of those relationships, particularly when they are with people that you've known for a very long time?
Just that, because they're people I've known for a very long time. And sometimes it's just human nature to want to hold on and to, I guess, sometimes to gain an understanding as to why we aren't as close anymore, or sometimes you still put the effort in to get together and connect, and it's okay.
Let me ask you this. Is it easier, or do you find in cases where those relationships have changed and are not as close anymore, is it easier to just kind of let them die a natural death? Or is there a pronouncement that says, we're just
You
not
have to behead them.
we're not going in the same direction anymore? And sometimes those are conversations that you have. Sometimes you have them and sometimes you don't. What do you feel?
I sometimes they just die a slow death. I think some, because it's not so much that the person may have harmed me, or they're still good people, but we're just not there. We're not connected like that anymore. I have a dear friend, or she was a dear friend. We don't talk as often as we used to. So we used to talk every day, multiple times a day, but the relationship that we have now is not the same. We sometimes we'll connect. I'm sorry. Sometimes we'll come back and connect, especially around the holidays. Hey,
Hmm.
how you doing, kind of thing. And every now and again we may drop a line. No harm, no foul. Wish them, no ill will, and I don't think that they do the same for me. It's just that our paths are not going in the same direction anymore.
Hmm.
And because they're not going in the same direction, they have what they're working on, and I have what I'm working on.
Hmm.
Wish them well, and then whenever I can, something happens and it's a good thing, they'll drop me a line and be like, "Hey, remember such and such?" Great, but that doesn't necessarily mean I'm getting ready to pick up that candle again. You know what
That's
I'm saying?
that's
It
right.
doesn't mean that. It just means that I congratulate you on where you are, but I'm still going on the path I need to go on.
Hmm.
You know.
And
Go
and
ahead.
I think also that I see Zerlina said some just dissolve on their own.
Yeah.
And I think they do. And
Mhm.
I think it is an important issue, Zerlina, because when you're looking at where you want to go
Mhm.
in 2022, whatever it is that happens to be, and whatever it is, whatever that looks like, as you begin to craft uh, how to get there,
Mhm.
you're listening to God's guidance in terms
Mhm.
of what He wants you to do, the direction that He wants you to take. There just isn't a fit.
Mhm. Right.
And when you see that, because when you're being intentional about doing what it is God wants you to do,
Right.
then it gets a lot less difficult. It's
Mhm.
less difficult to want to hold on, because you want to be doing what is necessary to get the outcome
Right.
that you feel that God wants you to have. Let me see. Bernice says
Mhm.
sometimes you hold on to the person because you're not quite sure how to break off that relationship, right? And
Mhm.
don't to cause any hurt. That's very true, Bernice.
Mhm.
But I do believe that when you are looking at where you want to go,
Mhm.
uh, it becomes more and more apparent
Mhm.
what you're going to need to get there,
Mhm.
who you're going to need to get there, and the type of people that you're going to have to surround yourself with in order to get there. And I think
Mhm.
when that happens, it avoids the hurt.
Mhm.
At least it diminishes it,
Mhm.
and helps you get to that place in that space of where you are both just comfortable in
Mhm.
acknowledging the fact that you went in different
Directions.
directions. And
Mhm.
that's the good news about that.
Mhm.
um, let's go to Angie. Angie says, she said, stay focused on the goals, the
Mhm.
tasks at hand, which I think
Mhm.
is very good.
Right.
Be intentional
Mhm.
with my time, which I think is very good. Um, make a list of, I love this, make a list of small steps I can accomplish each day
Mhm.
that will assist me in reaching my ultimate goal. And
Mhm.
I think small victories
Yes.
are definitely
Mm-hmm.
essential in having things turn out differently.
Mm-hmm.
And the application of the information and knowledge I already have. I
Mm-hmm.
want to go back to one thing, excuse me, before I go forward with that. The last thing that Zerlina had on her list was intentional about what I pour into my children.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to be sure that I said something about that, Zerlina, because I know in one of our past shows when we were talking about parenting and godly parenting,
Mm-hmm.
and I think there's still a part of that we probably could and would do well to dedicate a program to, um, because we have to, particularly in this season, as we are recrafting, as we are relooking and
Mm-hmm.
rethinking things about the family. uh,
Mm-hmm.
I think that there is definitely a need to be intentional
Yes.
about what we pour and how we pour.
Yes.
Even the little things, even the little nicknames, even, those
Mm-hmm.
things that we do, that we
Right.
have to be very mindful and very cognizant of that. That is, we are looking to have different outcomes for
Mm-hmm.
ourselves. We're looking to have different outcomes for our families.
Right.
And there are ways to teach our children to begin to expect and anticipate different outcomes for themselves as well.
Right.
So I didn't want to get too far off tracks earlier before I mentioned that, because I think that is very key. So let's go back to Miss Angie.
Mm-hmm.
Focus, intent, small victories, application of information. What do you have to add to that?
I love the fact that the second one, be intentional with my time. And I think somebody mentioned it, and I think this the spirit of procrastination.
Ooh, yes,
Be
my,
intentional with my time. Yes, I think that is key. And I was speaking with someone today, and we were talking about goals. And I was explaining to them that I wrote small goals, and I have medium sized goals, and I have larger goals. And some of the smaller goals, you put them in how you need them to be. There's some goals, like I know if
your
I'm working
priority
on
goals.
what you say.
You prioritize your
Yeah,
goals.
I prioritize my goals because I know that if my objective is to be ready to, let's say, purchase a home in 2023, there are small steps along the way in 2022 that I need to be preparing for 2023. I, depending on what your status is credit wise, is it going to take you 6 months to get it together? Or is it going to take you a year? But that's something you have to look at. That's something you have to know. And you have to be diligent in doing that. But I do like the fact that taking the small steps, and what did you call it? Celebrating the small victories. That's great. I
Mhm.
think that's wonderful. Hmm.
Mhm. And I think with some of the goals and things that we have, we cannot negate reaching out for help from experts.
Right.
There are people who have a wealth of knowledge
Hmm.
on things that we want to do, want to fix, want to have, want to
Hmm.
carry, but we don't know how to get there.
Right.
We can't expend another year or another 6 months or another 3 months
Right.
trying to figure it out, because we don't want to be transparent with where
Hmm.
we are, and we miss the opportunity to move ahead
Hmm.
uh, at a more rapid rate. I know
Right.
at the River Church they have something called the Wealth Institute,
Hmm.
and it is in 3 phases, but it allows you to be in front of people who can mentor you and to help you fix the credit score, help
Right.
you to know what you need to be looking
Hmm.
at, that will affect whether or not you can buy a home and
Hmm.
things like that. So within that, and within being intentional about what you do, sometimes that circle needs to close.
Hmm.
Sometimes the circle needs to open up, to
Mm-hmm.
include experts in your
Right.
life who can
Mm-hmm.
help you get where you want to go. They may not necessarily be your best friend, but they don't have to be. That's not what you need them to be. You need them to be able to give you information that would help you with the things that you're looking at.
And that's key because if both you and your friend are on the struggle bus,
Hmm.
somebody gonna have to get a transfer.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
But but again, that kind of goes back to Angie's point of applying the information and the knowledge.
Right,
You
right.
gotta apply it.
Hmm.
Is it gonna take work? Yeah, it's
Hmm.
gonna take work. But as you're working on it, this comes the small victories.
Hmm.
Comes the moment of celebration. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think that's key also, because sometimes we set things in motion in January and we don't revisit them until December. And we have to look along
And we give up.
the way. Yeah.
We didn't touch it for
Mhm.
12 months, but we gave up.
And then, it's funny that you mentioned that. I remember when we were looking for a house, the house I'm in now,
Mm-hmm.
and we had gotten an address for a place, and we couldn't find it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know whether you remember that day, but we drove around, drove around, could not find
Mm-hmm.
the house. And I said, I was so disgusted because I'd just been through so much trying to buy a home. And I said, you know what? This just not meant.
Mm-hmm.
And you said to me, no, that house is not meant to be.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean you're not supposed to have a house.
Right.
It just means you're not supposed to have
Be
that
at
one.
that one. Mm-hmm.
And on the way out of the development, there
Mm-hmm.
was a sign in the window of the home I'm in now that
Mm-hmm.
says for sale by owner. And I called Mr. McKay,
Mm-hmm.
and it was the smoothest transaction ever.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just a reminder that just because it's not going the way that we think it's
Exactly.
going doesn't mean that it's not to be.
Right.
It just means that sometimes you have to step back,
Mm-hmm.
let it go, give the reins to God. Remember the
I
all
thought you were about to break out and sing
omnipresent
Frozen.
God.
I thought you were getting ready to sing Frozen. Let it go. I wasn't sure where you were going.
No, man, just
Yeah.
okay.
Just wanted to make sure.
We're going to move on, folks. But Bernice's first thing she had, I must stop being a procrastinator
There
because
it is.
sometimes I don't do things when I should.
Mm-hmm.
Bernice, when I had a blog, I wrote a piece about procrastination, and it took me almost 6 months. Now that's just sad, but it's true. Procrastination is real.
It is.
It will stop you in your tracks.
It will.
Kind of want to know, how did I get to this place yet again?
Mm-hmm.
Because I have not followed
Mm-hmm.
through. What I want to know is if somebody out there has tips on how not to procrastinate. What is it you need to do? What is it you need to put in place? What is it you need to try so that you can finish the things you need to finish and not put them to the side or not revisit them next month or next year or whatever? So if you have a tip, I'm not going to ask you for yours, Lynn. I refuse. But if you have a tip that can help the Procrastinators Anonymous tonight, let, let us know what that is. Let us know what that is. Go ahead. I got to drink some water, so I'm going to let you
I
talk.
was just going to say that the person who has the tip probably didn't write it down because because they procrastinated. I don't know whether or not I don't. I think I personally think in order to get out of the procrastination mode, I think we have to do what who was it? And Angela said we got to be intentional.
Mhm.
Got to be intentional. I know this. We have something called Power Hour, and we sit down, and I say we because it's a group of us, and we sit down. We blocked out time where the hour is spent working on something that we need to do for our business. And we gather like on a Zoom call, and for the first 30 minutes, you have a list of things that you need to work on in those 30 minutes. And the objective is to take the hour to focus on your business. That's intentional, and some of the list that's written out may not be something that you personally need to work on or do, but the objective is to do something that is geared towards increasing your business. That's intentional. That is not procrastinating, because we're good at saying, okay, I don't have to do that right now, I'll do that later.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the intentional part. And I think that is what helps with the procrastination. You've got to be intentional, and not, it's so easy to say, okay, I'll do that later. I do that later. I'm tired. Let me see what my day is like. I'll do that at 7. And 7 has come and gone 5 times over, and you still haven't touched it.
Mm-hmm.
Still haven't touched it.
There are little things and little tricks that you can do within that I have learned that have really. Uh, Ida, you want to join Procrastinators Anonymous?
No,
That's,
because
I,
somebody gonna forget to do the shirt.
I think there are more. I think there are more members than want to admit
Right.
they are card carrying members. But I found that for me, what helps me is, and it is an extension of what Lynn is talking about in terms of being intentional. The two things that, and they go hand in hand, is number one, to stay focused
Yes.
and to avoid the distractions.
Mm-hmm.
I had a meeting with someone the other day, and we began just a dialogue, and we
Mm-hmm.
started talking and everything, and I said, I'm going to stop you right here,
Mm-hmm.
because there is something very intentional that we have to do within this time frame. So let's turn our attention back to that, and once we have finished that, then we can go on with, this kind of sidebar conversation
Mm-hmm.
over here. Because I knew that if we kept going down that path,
Right.
we would never ever finish what it was we had actually come together to
Right.
do. So I think focus and just avoiding those distractions, and if it is putting a time limit on it, and saying, okay, I don't have, and I think about when I was working for somebody else, you didn't have all day.
Yeah.
You had an hour to get the task done. You bared down through it for the hour to get it done. So I think that sometimes putting time limits on things, time frames on things,
Mm-hmm.
and being aware of what distracts you. Sometimes I cannot afford to answer the phone,
Mm-hmm. Right.
because if I answer the phone, then I'm going to handle and try to work on whatever that
Mm-hmm.
call had to do with.
Right.
So if I'm limiting my time to get something done, then I'm going to limit my time, which says everything that would be a distraction for me has to go. And Gloria said, the Lord told me to simply do it when He told me to do it. And I think that is excellent advice. I
Mm-hmm.
also think that within that, that we have to be cognizant of the fact that we've got an end time.
Mm-hmm.
Even if I stop when God tells me to do a particular thing, He doesn't intend for me to be in that all day
Right.
long. So,
I also think that sometimes we procrastinate out of fear.
mhm,
We procrastinate because we are not sure what the outcome is going to be, or how it's going to I
mhm,
think sometimes when you have to make a phone call, and it's a difficult phone call,
mhm.
it's so easy not to make the phone call rather than just make the phone call, you know.
And Bernice's number two is a combination of what you're saying, what Pastor
Mm-hmm.
Gloria was saying, because she says I must function in a new mindset that would allow my faith to override my
Mm-hmm.
fears to start and
Mm-hmm.
complete my assignments that God
Right.
gave me to do.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, absolutely. That's right on point, Bernice.
Mm-hmm.
And she said I must be determined more than ever to fight to win in every battle I face. And
Mm-hmm.
winning doesn't always mean it's the outcome that I seek or expect.
Right.
It's the outcome that God has destined to happen in
Mm-hmm.
my life, yet still winning
Yeah.
and being a winner. And I think that is definitely true. And that is a mindset.
Yeah. It is.
That is a
It
mindset.
is.
When I look at it, and I know with part of the listeners that I have on one of my other programs, our thing for the year is expect God's best. Expect
Yes.
the best.
Expect the best.
When we are expecting that, when we are expecting a good outcome, then
Mm-hmm.
whatever the outcome is
Mm-hmm.
becomes a good outcome
Right.
because we're able to extract from it
Mm-hmm.
something that will help us see the glass half full, something that will help us to move forward, something that will let us know delay is not denial. I
Right.
mean, many, 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 many things that will come out of that
Right.
that will not put us at a place of saying, okay, let me shut my eyes and let this one pass by because it's not working
Right.
like I thought.
Thought it would. Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't have to.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have
Mm-hmm.
to in order for it to work.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. I love that. Thanks a lot, Bernice. We appreciate that. Um, let's see where we go from here. Let's look at Pastor Gloria. Pastor Gloria's has to do with forgiveness.
Yeah.
In order for her to move forward, she's looking at going into 2022,
Mm-hmm.
having it look different than 21. She says, forgiving myself for my past because I am not my past mistakes.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Forgive all persons who I think have wronged me.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I want to deal with those two things first. I think that one of the great inhibitors of us moving forward has to do with beating up on ourselves.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
You make a mistake, but you are not the mistake.
Right.
You say that, but then we don't act that way.
Right.
It goes back to that application and of the information and knowledge we already have.
Mm-hmm.
If I know that I'm not the mistake
Mm-hmm.
that I made, then why can't I let it go for me? Like we talk about letting it go for other people.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Don't carry it. Don't keep the baggage. Don't keep dragging it. It gets too weighty. It's so heavy. You're so busy pulling things from your past
Mm-hmm.
into your present. You can't move into your future. You can't do any of that because you're beating up on yourself. Scripture says there is therefore now no condemnation.
Mm-hmm.
If we can come out of that place of making ourselves
Right.
feel bad or worthless or ineffective or any of those things,
Mm-hmm.
then we're able to receive the things that God is trying to give us and trying to show us
Mm-hmm.
and trying to do through us. So, Pastor Gloria, I think those pieces on forgiveness are going to be very important
Mm-hmm.
in terms of how you view what you do and the
Yep.
mindset that you have about the things that you want to see changed and the
Mm-hmm.
things that you want to see done differently. And her last one had to do with family. And
Mm-hmm.
she said, I am sending a handwritten note to family members at least once a month just to say I love you.
Awesome.
And I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I love that. Did you have any comments on Pastor
I
Gloria's?
I wanted to kind of add to that one because as we begin to forgive ourselves, we also need to. It kind of goes back to, I'm not sure which person said it. Checking that circle.
Mhm.
Because you have to be careful that as you forgive yourselves, that you don't allow people who are in your circle to continuously bring up your past
That's it. Amen.
and hold you hostage to what you did. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine. We were talking about the exact same thing about our past, and people are always wanting to bring up the past, but yet you've grown and you've moved on, and wondering how come they haven't seen the growth. Well, the reality of it is the last place that they can only speak of the last place that you left them, and you
Mm-hmm.
left them in your past. They didn't come with you
Mm-hmm.
as you grew. So that's the only thing that they can talk about.
Right.
But to correct it is to be able to turn around and tell them, that is so true. I did that. Because sometimes you got to own your mistake.
Mm-hmm. But the important thing is you said I did that.
I did that.
I
I
did.
did that. But
Yeah.
isn't it wonderful? Look at how God has changed.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes you have to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, and it's okay. But it's
We.
like you said, I'm not my mistake.
Yep.
I'm not my mistake. Yeah, I made it. But the thing is sometimes we don't always want to own up to what we've done.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the first step in healing and forgiving yourself.
That's right.
That's the first step. You got to own it.
Mm-hmm.
Got to own it. You did it. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
You did it,
But
you
what
know?
it and it's all and I say all the time, it's not a problem that you made the mistake.
Right.
The problem is when you don't learn from the
From
mistake.
the mistake. Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
Hmm.
we can make mistakes. It's part of our growth. It's part of our learning process. It's
Hmm.
part of what we need in order to get farther
Right.
along in whatever
Right.
it is that we're doing. But when you don't acknowledge,
Hmm.
like you were saying, when you don't own it, then you can't see the value of what went
Right.
wrong
Hmm.
because there is value
Hmm.
in what went wrong.
Right.
But we have to be able to keep that before us. Now we have a decision to make, and villagers, I'm going to need you to respond quickly on. We are actually out of time for this segment of When Life Speaks. So we have two choices. We can continue tonight, or we can come back and revisit this in 2 weeks and kind of finish up with this good stuff because I think this is good stuff.
Hmm.
So, do we come back or do we continue? Come back or continue? Come back or continue?
Mm-mm, 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 mm-mm.
Continue. Zerlina says continue. Anybody else weighing in? Anybody else? Anybody else? Oh, okay. Which continues, Zerlina? Continue tonight or continue in 2 weeks? Continue tonight or continue in 2 weeks? Continue in 2 weeks is Bernice. Okay, Francina, are you continue in 2 weeks or continue
Come
tonight?
back. Gloria
Come
says come back. So
for
that's a continue in 2 weeks.
okay, okay,
Okay. I
all right.
think we're coming. We're going to come back to continue in 2 weeks. How about that? How about that?
And I'm glad. I'm glad we have weigh-ins from about three other people
Hmm.
on this, and I really think that it is giving us some tools
Hmm.
that we can use
Yes.
into this new year, and
Hmm.
and that's the thing. We don't want to just put stuff out there
Hmm.
and then not have something viable that's important that we can use. Uh,
Correct.
and if there and we may have some examples in terms of what some of us have done, like the
Hmm.
procrastination piece, or things that would assist us as we move forward. So that's what we're going to do, guys. And if there's anybody else from the village who is listening who did not have an opportunity to weigh in, you still have an opportunity to do that. And we will include your comments in our next segment here of doing things differently in
In
2022.
2022. Hmm.
22. So thank you so much. Francine said, let's go with the majority. So the majority is a 2 weeks. So we will come back the next time Lynn is with us. And Lynn, I don't have my hat.
No, we have a special guest in 2 weeks.
Oh, on the 20th?
Yep.
Is it the 20th?
Yep.
Okay. Well, you know what? We're gonna get it done. We might have to sneak it in next week, but we're going to get to we're gonna continue with this. We're gonna
Did you see me? You didn't see me. You said sneak it in next week. I slid out.
we'll
I'm
see.
not with you next week.
We'll You're not with me next week.
Right. I don't come back again until the 20th. But we'll talk about it off
Yeah,
here.
we'll talk about it
We'll talk
offline
about
and we'll get it all figured out
Yep.
and we will let you know when we're going to continue this. This has been good tonight, guys. I hope it's done something for you. It's definitely done something for me. And I appreciate you. I appreciate you, Lynn.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
the village for weighing in and letting us know what they think some of the challenges are and how we're going to overcome them.
Yep.
And I love it. I love it. So until we get together again, you guys have an absolutely phenomenal week.
Mhm.
And just get ready. Every
Yep.
time you come in, just get ready to turn down the volume of life for just a little bit.
Right.
Be ready to receive so that when life speaks,
You'll speak life.
Good night. See you next time.
Good night.